Could it be? For me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the command post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your commander-in-chief, Louie T. Here with another breakdown of a Commander's Log episode. This time, episode number 4 from season number 3, Building the Brotherhood. So this was a very similar episode to the one we got last year when they had the draft class head to, out on the town to DC to see the monuments and all of those things and kind of get out in the community. And so I like that whole thing. Again, it's all a part of that theme of building the brotherhood, and we'll get to all of that here in a second. I want to start out with the only negative thing that I'm going to say this entire video. And generally, I don't say many negative things when it comes to these Commander Log episodes because they've been fantastic. But this one felt anticlimactic. This one felt thrown together almost like, hey, we got to give them something before we get into the preseason. It felt incomplete. And the only reason I think I feel this way is because they gave us a movie for episode 3, and it kind of set the bar, reset the bar, because this was where the bar was. 16 to 20 minute long video, and we were salivating and at the edge of our seat waiting for that 16 to 20 minutes. And then you give us an hour, and now we're like, whoa. And now you bring us back down to where the bar originally was, and we're like, wait a minute, this isn't enough. And they're like Smokey's mom. Well, make it enough. And so I sat down, everybody got me all juiced up, ginned up about this new episode. So I'm thinking I'm sitting down to 27, 37 minutes. And I sit down and it's 16 minutes and 49 seconds. And I'm like, wait a minute. Almost like you get a bag of something or a box of something, and you stick your hand in and there's no more, and you turn it upside down and you're like, wait, that's it? There's no more in there, So, you get the bag of chips and half of it is air. That's what this episode kind of felt like to me. Half of it was air. And I was like, hey, where's the rest of my Commander's Log episode 4? But, at the end of the day, any content that we get, I am grateful for it. I don't want to sound ungrateful. They just spoiled me. That's all. That is it. They spoiled me rotten. And now I have to understand that every episode isn't going to be 57 minutes or 27 minutes. You're going to have some 16-minute episodes too. Okay. And that's okay. Again, any content that they give us surrounding this team that's behind the curtains, that's giving us a behind the scenes look, I welcome it with open arms. That said, I'm glad. So this one was extremely short for me. That's the short version of what I just said, essentially. I'm glad they didn't just focus on the youngins going to DC. Been there, done that. We've seen that episode before. That's what they did last year. They literally dedicated a full episode to the youngins going to DC. And that was cool. And they spoke to, different people that were helping set up the trip and taking them and all. And that was cool. But I don't need the entire episode centered around that. I'm good. And so I'm glad they didn't do that. They took half the episode, dedicated it to the youngins going to DC. And then they said, we're going to take the other half of the episode and split that between, them changing the building and changing the environment, which I love. We're going to talk about that here in a second. And then them showing up for camp. And that was really brief. I thought they could have done more. They could have gotten this episode, personally, they could have gotten this episode to 20 minutes just based off of them showing up at camp. And I know they probably didn't want to show too much because maybe that's going to be, added in the next one. And so they wanted to save some footage for the next one. I think they could have given us 2 or 3 more minutes of guys just showing up to camp. It's such an exciting time. We didn't even see Terry, right? Like, I'm pretty sure they got just about every guy walking into the facility for training camp. And they could have given us more. They could have sat a couple of guys down, talked to them about, how excited they were for the first day of camp, all that good stuff. And they could have left it at that without bleeding into whatever they're going to give us next. If there's another episode, I would assume that we're going to get 2 or 3 more of these, including training camp itself and the preseason and I don't know if they're gonna go that far. I don't know if they went that far last year. I think they kind of cut us off right before the preseason, but we'll see how far they take us this year. It would be pretty cool if they gave us like some hard knocks type of access to the joint practices and the preseason and kind of let us in all the way up into the season and then cut us off. But I don't think they're going to do that. But in any event, that would be pretty cool now, wouldn't it? Um, I think the youngins, I get the feeling, I get the vibe that the youngins truly do get along with one another. Like they are genuinely connected. Like they like each other. Not that last year felt forced or anything like that, but it just feels like the environment that has been set up by Adam Peters, but more specifically DQ. I really feel like they set the tone for the team about how you've got to really get to know the guy next to you. You've really got to understand that guy's why. You got to understand what makes that guy who he is in order to really truly understand why it is you're doing what it is you're doing and why you're going to go to battle for that guy because you don't want to let him down in order to get to the point where you feel a certain a level of connectedness, but more importantly, a responsibility, right? That's when it becomes next level. When there's a responsibility to your teammate to not let him down, you feel responsible for your duty and your portion of the job that helps get it done. And if you don't do that, you feel like you're letting your teammate down. And that's the worst feeling if you've ever played team sports. When you see a guy off to the sideline, taking a knee, head down after a fumble, that guy feels like shit. You know why? Because he feels like he just let the other 52 guys down. And that's why it's important that teammates go over there. Hey, man, it's all right. We're gonna get it back and pick that guy up because he feels like garbage. If you've ever played on a team and you missed the game-winning shot, I've done that. If you've struck out with the bases loaded, I have not done that. But you got the final out in a game that was close and there were runners in scoring position. I've done that. You feel like shit, because you feel like you let the team down. And you want that. You want guys to care. I've been on teams where guys didn't give a shit. Guys had extra years. It's my senior year. They got 2 more years, so they don't give a shit. They don't care as much as I do. I've been on teams like that. That shit sucks. You want everybody invested all in at the same time. You may be a rookie. Well, guess what? Bobby Wagner's in year, 13. This could be it for him. He doesn't have 4 more years. Terry McLaurin isn't thinking about 2-3 years down the road. He wants to win now. Jonathan Allen wants to win now. He's going into year 8. He's not thinking about 2 years from now, 3 years. He wants to win now. So I love the fact that Dan Quinn has fostered this environment, and you can really tell with the rookies in particular that they genuinely enjoy each other's company and that he's pounded into their head. It gives me Joe Gibbs 1.0 vibes. How the players were almost like robots with batteries in their back, repeating things that they had heard from the staff over and over and over again. Because if the message is clear and it's concise and it's consistent, you're going to hear it from the players. And you listen to guys like Brandon Coleman and Mike Samer still talk about how important it is to be in the community, but how important it is to create this brotherhood. to know what the guy next to you is playing for, to get to know him as a person off the field. That's all DQ. That was the message DQ was preaching from day one when he showed up in Ashburn for his introductory press conference. And we've seen that play out over the life of this offseason and into training camp thus far. It's been beautiful to watch, to be honest with you. And we saw some of that here in this episode. I love the resources. I mean, love it. Love the resources that Josh Harris is pouring into the building and the players. You know, the player experience has been trash here. We've seen the surveys and all of the different data that's been collected about how players feel about the facility and the kitchen, the weight room, all of that stuff. Just about across the boards, we're D's and F's and all kinds of shit like that. And so we were ranked one of the worst facilities in football. And, for most of us, not that it matters. The Chiefs had, one of the worst facilities in football, and they win the Super Bowl almost every year. But it matters. Damn it. It matters. Okay. Let's be honest. If this were college and we were recruiting, we'd get no 4-star, 5-star athletes because they'd come to our facilities, they'd see that they were trash, and they'd be like, no, I'm going to go somewhere else where they've got state-of-the-art stuff. Not coming here. Luckily, it's the NFL and you don't get to choose, right? Because we would have no talent if that were the case. The fact that he came in immediately, and I remember last year, right around the time when he was about to purchase the team, he would come around, he visited the facilities, he kind of took inventory of everything and how dilapidated it was. I'm pretty sure he's like, holy shit, there's a lot of stuff we got to do here, right? And he's come in, gotten with Adam Peters, gotten with Dan Quinn, and I mean, he started immediately before those guys even got here. He started to implement things, to put little things in here and there, and he started pouring in resources. He's spending over $40 million on the stadium and the team facility, and you can see the work. And I'm glad they showed us some of that because those are things behind the scenes that we don't necessarily see. But from a player perspective, and again, if you're talking about building bonds and creating an environment where those bonds can be strengthened, then you need to give them somewhere where they can hang out. Because to trust them to hang out with each other outside of the field, hey, good luck. Like, I'm not saying that they're not doing that. The offensive linemen seem to get along very well. As long as there's some food, it seems like they'll come together and kick it with one another. But everybody has lives outside of the football field. People have families. Everybody's in different stages of life. Some guys don't have a family, don't have a girlfriend, don't have a wife, don't have a kid, et cetera, but a lot of people do have, a wife or kids or are expecting or whatever. So you're trying to spend as much time as you can with your family. So if you can keep them in the building and keep them together, creating that bond, building that bond, that's what you want. Because once they leave, there's all bets are off, right? I'm more likely to spend time with my teammate, get to know him, establish that bond that will ultimately be a lifelong bond and be unbreakable. I'm more likely to establish that in the building than outside of it. And then the more you do it inside the building, the more likely it is we're going to get together outside of the building and really establish a real, true, genuine friendship. So for him to come in, spruce up the kitchen, get the staff better materials, better situation, better materials so they can cook better food for the players. Remember, nutrition was one of the things Josh Harris changed immediately. Came in here, got a better nutritional staff. He came in here, spruced up the player recovery situation and treatment and all of that stuff. He got, people that were, renowned for their ability to, practice medicine and different treatment techniques and things, and that brought them into the facility, right? Made them a part of the organization. He's put together better situations. He's built up better situations for treatment. So the lounges are better, as you can see. They're going to put together a new. I've always thought that we've had one of the lamest. I've said this numerous times. If you've been during our draft parties here, I've said we've got one of the worst draft rooms in the NFL. Our draft room, watching the Giants Hard Knocks, their draft room, their war room, or whatever you want to call it, where they're sitting there. That shit is awesome. And you look around the league, and there's some fantastic war rooms where they're watching the draft, where they're putting their boards together. Our shit is so lame. It looks like a 1980s office building that stinks inside. It looks like the carpet stinks and it looks old. If you've ever been in one of those buildings, you know the smell. Old carpet, wooden walls, and it just smells old and closed in. That's what our shit looks like on television. I'd imagine it doesn't smell that way, but it looks like it smells that way. And that's because Dan Snyder couldn't give two shits about the player experience. He couldn't give two shits about anything other than money. Didn't want to spend it, but he wanted to make a ton of it, hand over fist. Wasn't pouring into the building. That's why it looked the way that it did. Wasn't pouring into the stadium. That's why people have brown stuff falling all over them, brown liquids and shit falling all over them. Rails are falling off and almost injuring players and fans. That's why the building was falling apart. That's why the stadium was falling apart, because he didn't give a shit. And the product on the field showed. I am so happy that we have an owner who gives a shit, who is willing to not only spend on the players and the coaches and the front office to acquire the best people possible to help turn this around, but also willing to do the things that us as fans most of the time don't see, that the players have to endure every day, that the front office has to endure every day, creating a work environment and a facility that makes people want to come to work. That's important. If you've ever worked in a building and the building is trash, it makes you not want to go to work. Who wants to go and work somewhere where it's conditions that are unsavory? Nobody wants to do that. And they spend a lot of time in that facility. So why not make it a place where people actually want to go and stay a little bit longer after they don't have to be there anymore? I'd rather, if I'm Montez Sweat or Chase Young, yeah, I'll work out with my people. I'll go get treatment with my people because this facility isn't up to my standards. Those guys used to routinely not be there, and I'm not making excuses for them. But when you do the things that Josh Harris is doing, it makes it more likely that you're going to get the kind of attendance that they had this year, and you knew they were going to have that in year one. You would like to think. I don't think anybody was brazen enough to say, nah, I'm not going the first year of this whole new regime. I'm going to do my own thing. But doing the things that they're doing, you're going to create an environment where you're more likely to get guys to show up. Like Dan Quinn talked about, guys wanted to come in. Guys wanted to be around the facility. A lot of the youngins don't know any better. They came in to a situation, and I'm so happy for them. They're blessed. They came into a situation, they don't know what it was like. They don't know what the building used to look like, the aesthetics, the door that says ball is life. They didn't see the bland facility that looked like it was falling apart, that was decrepit, that didn't have messaging and Darryl Green making a ferocious tackle. They weren't walking around all of that history and all of these positive messages on doors and walls and things of that nature. They didn't see what it used to look like. Good for them, by the way. Also good for the guys who have seen that, who have lived through the lean years and how bad it was, and now they're actually seeing what a real NFL organization is supposed to look like, because now they've got a greater appreciation. This is what the rookies don't have. They don't have a greater appreciation for what this whole process is supposed to be like and what it's supposed to look like, because they didn't see how bad it could actually be, which is what Jonathan Allen, Terry McLaurin, Daron Payne, Tress Way, Jeremy Reeves, and all of the veteran players that have been here, they know. So I wrap this thing up with this final statement, and I wrote this down in my notes for this episode. This whole process, this whole off season, this transformation has been amazing to witness, and it has been long overdue. And I can't stress this enough. I didn't think I was ever going to see this. And when I sit down and I reflect on the offseason that was and everything that is transpiring with this team and the good vibes and the good juju, the NFL Network hadn't come out to Washington in 6 years. Mike Garafolo said, I was here 6 years ago. They don't come to Washington. You know why? For what? Why are we going to Washington? What's exciting there? The only reason they came this year, to be honest with you, is because we got Jaden Daniels. And yeah, Dan Quinn helps. And what Adam Peters is doing and what Josh Harris is doing, that helps. But we got a young quarterback. They're going to go where the young quarterback is because that's a big talking point. But at the end of the day, they came here too because it's different. And I know I keep saying that, and I know some of you don't want to hear it. You want to see action, and I get that too. But this feels different because it is different. And if nothing else you take from this episode, it should be that right there, that not only does it feel different, it is different, and the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the money being spent to upgrade the facility, to upgrade the kitchen, to upgrade the training rooms, to upgrade the meeting rooms, to upgrade the draft war room, to upgrade the aesthetics, to upgrade the player experience. These things may be ancillary to you as a fan, but it means a hell of a lot to the people that work in that building, the players that show up every day there to come to work. And a wise man once told me, look good, feel good. Feel good, play good. Play good, well, they pay good if you do that. You got to first look good. They're turning that building around. That makes you feel good. You build that brotherhood. Then you go play good. And then the masses show up. And then they pay good. This is a process. And brick by brick, they're putting this thing together. They're building the brotherhood. And I love to see it. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on this installment of the Command Post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I look forward to chopping it up with you. Training Camp Confidential, all of that good stuff. I want to react to the 53-man roster video that I put out. There's a lot of you had some interesting takes about the roster. We are there's an off day on Monday. We are going to go live Monday night, and we are going to talk about that roster video and some of your comments. And I'm going to react to a lot of them because I find a lot of your comments very interesting, and I want to react to your comments. Some of them were very thoughtful, very enlightening, even I want to debate with some of you, you know, how we have some healthy discourse here. I think some of you have some great points that I didn't take into consideration. So we're going to talk about all of that. So if you haven't watched that 53-man roster video that I did for Bleacher Report, go ahead and check it out because we're going to talk about that. That will be the basis for what we discuss on Monday, along with, you know, other camp topics going into game week. Yeah. Anyway, enjoy the weekend. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one. Take care.
LouieTeeNetwork.